Hi, I'm going to try to keep this short. I know I'm usually terribly long-winded, but I have a point to make. I'm planning on naming this video um, "Giving Credit Where Credit Is Due." The original title I thought of was actually um, "Which God or Bit of Brain to Thank," which again it's a little wordy. Who knows? Maybe I'll tack the two of them together and make a really long title. But here's the thing: the reason I want to name it "Give Credit Is Where Credit Is Due" is because I expanded the thought a little, and again, I want to keep it short, so I'm not going to get too deeply into that. But there's so much of giving credit these days that is paid attention to. The copyright laws are all about giving credit, and and a lot of times you just can't. You know, you'd like to, but you can't. You don't know where credit is due. Take a lot of memes that are passed around the internet. People see them, they like them, they share them. There's no credit marked on them. If you have a little idea, you want to modify something and change it, make it a little bit more to your liking. Um, maybe make a new message out of it. Who do you credit for that? How do you credit someone for that? Um, and I don't have the answer to that one. I recently made a modification to a meme that somebody had actually signed. They actually put their credit on it, and so I knew whose it was, and I tacked a little "and friends" on underneath, and turned out he liked the modification, but he didn't like the fact that I had modified it. He wanted his memes to be out there as he had originally made them, not changed. Um, so I had a talk with him about it, and I ended up deleting what I had made. Hopefully, there are no traces of it left out there on the internet because I meant no disrespect, but I had, done my best to, do it in a way that I thought was, the best way that I could do it. Turns out he would prefer I didn't do it at all, and I respect that. Um, but there again, there was no way for me to know in advance. And now here's what triggered this, and you might have heard that ding in the background. I don't know whether or not that the mic picked it up, but probably. That's actually my toaster oven going off, and it's a bit of a long story, but I'm going to try to keep it short. What happened is I had something on the stove, some leftovers on the stove, some carrots and stuff that I decided to rewarm. Put the stove on its lowest setting, and I left it on there longer than I should have. I wasn't sure how long to leave it on there, and it didn't quite burn on the bottom. It sort of caramelized at the bottom of the pan, and I thought, well, I'm not really sure quite what to do with that. So I left it there, trying to decide what should I do with it. And it cooled off, and eventually I thought, well, maybe it sort of looks like some kind of a vegetable spread. Maybe I can use it that way. And got some bread that was starting to kind of mold, some little things about like that big, a little bit bigger than a hot dog bun, some kind of French bread. And I was thinking, well, should I throw that out? Should I eat it? I mean, it's still not gone real bad. And so I cut the little bits of mold off of one of those pieces of bread and sliced up what was left into little thin slices about like this, and uh, sat them in a bowl that I had scooped this stuff out of the pan into, and brought them over to my toaster oven and brought a little teaspoon over there, and I smoothed on some of the stuff on each of these little pieces of bread and stuck them in my toaster oven. And when I was done, all of these little pieces of bread just barely neatly fit on the surface of the tray in my toaster oven. As a matter of fact, they had to rearrange them a little bit to squeeze in the last piece, and I mean, literally, just like there's no room left, just fit. None of them left out, and no space left over. And I thought, well, that was kind of neat, and so I thought, well, maybe some part of my brain worked that out for me. I didn't do it consciously, but some part of my brain might have worked it out, and it occurred to me that somebody who believes in a God would say, well, my God did that. Whether they had asked you to or not, that was really nice of God to do that. And I was thinking, well, if some part of my brain worked that out in advance, that was really nice of that part of my brain to do that. So I thought, I want to give credit where credit is due. And so out loud, because I know the human brain is interconnected in a lot of ways, and it's there's no straightforward path to just pass a message internally from a certain part of the brain to some other part of the brain, and I didn't even know what part might have done it. So out loud, I said something to the effect of, well, if some part of my brain worked that out for me in advance, whatever part that was, thanks. And if there's a God out there who did it, well, then thank you, God, whichever one you are. And I want to give credit where credit is due, but I don't actually know where credit is due. And I really think that that's an important message. And I thought about this, and I figured, well, what the heck? I'm going to make a little video on it, just saying something. And I see it's already up to, over 6 minutes. So I'm going to, try to cut this short. But that's basically what I wanted to say. That if you don't know where credit is due, then don't just give credit to, something that you have been told is responsible for like everything. Because I mean, if you were, for example, raised under a certain religion, and you're raised to, the way you have been taught to think is you thank this God of that religion for everything, and you pray to that God of that religion for everything. I mean, think about it. If it hadn't lined up, I wouldn't be thanking anybody, because I wouldn't even had the thought to thank them. And the toaster oven went off. Now, maybe I put too much time on it. They might not be any good now. I had tasted the stuff before I spread it on there, by the way, and it seemed like it would make something nice. So hopefully it will. And if it does, should I thank God for that? If it doesn't, should I blame the devil for that? No, I think not. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if it turns out nice, sure, I can be thankful for that, but I don't have to be thankful to some part of my brain that might have worked it out, because that's very unlikely. And I don't have to be thankful to some God that might have made it happen, because that's also very unlikely. And um, if I was one who believed in a God and was constantly asking that God for things, then every time I got what I wanted, I'd be thinking, okay, that God listened to me and did what I wanted. And I'm so thankful that God is so wonderful to me. And every time it didn't happen, well, I mean, if I'm like most other believers out there, then I would probably be thinking, well, that's my fault. I didn't, I didn't get listened to, or, God didn't do what I want because I made some mistake. I did something wrong. And then that's putting blame where blame isn't due, because sometimes things just don't go your way. It's not your fault. I mean, sure. Sometimes you could have planned a little better. Sometimes, you could have increased the odds that things would go your way. But is talking to a probably imaginary being that you were told made everything really going to increase the odds of things going your way? I think not. Now, maybe, just maybe, some part of your brain identifies itself as that God, helps you to get a few things done. And when you say, thank you, God, it thinks, oh, I did a good job. And, you might be training part of your brain to do that. But if that's the case, if that's even possibly the case, then maybe you should do like I did, be honest about it and say, I don't know where credit is due. If that was a God out there, then thank you, God. But if that was a part of my brain, then thank you, brain. What's it going to hurt? Just try to be honest. At any rate, thanks for your time. Whoever out there might be watching this, whenever.